Hello, everyone. Today, we want to take a look at some of the math from the finance section. And specifically in this video, we're going to take a look at the math that involves the amortization chart or loan factor chart. They mean the same thing. You'll see them called both amortization factor, loan factor. The loan amortizes at this amount. It could be stated in a number of ways. I guess the best thing I should do first is share with you the chart itself as I talk about it. So here's where you can find the chart. I'm going to share my screen with you. And this is just a look at your Learn, Test, Pass. And so when you go into Learn, Test, Pass, you are able to go into Unit 6.3 over here on the left-hand side. And of course, you know, you've got everything broken down into units. So just click on Unit 6. So I'll shrink it back. If you open up Unit 6, and then you look down here at Unit 6.3, right after the PowerPoint slides, you have something called the Amortization Loan Factor Reference Chart. Now, this is going to be provided for you on the test. You don't have to memorize anything here. This chart will be provided for you. So that's the first thing. Where do you find it? There it is. Here's what I recommend. Go ahead and print it out for yourself. Just go ahead and do it. You don't want to be trying to reference back to something that's on the computer while you're also taking an exam on the computer. We will share it in the Zoom screen for you when you're taking your final exam, but it's much better if you just go ahead and print this one page. It's one page and have it just there for you during the exam. That's fine. It's the one piece of paper you're allowed to have. And they will have it posted for you in the testing center when you go take your license exam. So that's kind of first thing you need to know is where to find the chart. Now that we've talked about, you know, where you're going to find the chart, let's talk about what the chart actually does. The chart is designed to give you a monthly, not annual, but monthly payment amount, repayment amount on a loan. And obviously, loans can be issued at different interest rates, and that's what you see on the left-hand side of the chart. And loans can also be issued at different terms, which is the amount of time that the loan has been issued for. So let's take a look at the chart here, a little bit more detail, a little bit bigger view of it here. And let's talk about what we mean by using the chart here. And I know we've already covered this in class, but it doesn't hurt to just quickly kind of run through this because we're going to be referring back to this. Anytime you get a question about a loan and you think to yourself, I really need to know how much the monthly payment is to answer this question. Either the test question will give you the monthly payment or they will expect you to be able to use the chart to come up with the monthly payment. And using the chart is not nearly as complex as it might seem. So I'm going to use a highlighter here just to sort of give you an idea of what you will see. So let's say the test question says the loan is issued at 5% annual interest. So we're going to take a look. That whole row is loans at 5% annual interest. And then the question also says that the loan is issued for 15 years. So we want to highlight in the same way 15-year column here, because this entire column is loans at 15 years. And what we're looking for is just where the two intersect with each other. This is the monthly payment for a 15-year loan at 5% interest. So here you go again. It's a 15-year loan at 5% interest. And this 7.91 is going to be the monthly payment. Well, it's actually $7.91 because payments are in dollars and cents. So it's $7.91. And notice it tells you right here on the chart for a loan in the amount of $1,000. These payments, every single one of these numbers is a monthly payment for a loan of exactly $1,000. Now that we've kind of gone through that, we're going to take a look at the worksheet and do these questions in detail, because I think as we start to work through it, you'll start to see how we're going to implement that. So let's get the worksheet opened up here and take a look at it. Number one says, Using the loan factor, amortization factor chart, what is the monthly principal and interest payment for a loan issued at 7.25% annual interest for 15 years? So they're not asking us to do anything with the number from the chart here. They just want to know, what is the number from the chart? Basically, can we read the chart? And so what we're going to be looking for is 7.25% annual interest and 15 years. Those are the two things that we're going to be looking for in the chart. So if we flip back over to the chart, we're going to do the same thing in the chart that we did before. They told us, again, go back over here, 7.25% annual interest. So let's find, we got to scroll down. 7.25 is the same thing as 7 1/4. Okay. Now, if you need to kind of remind yourself, you know, and they're only going to do, they're not going to do eighths on the exam. They're only going to do quarters and halves. So, you know, 1/4 equals 0.25, 1/2 equals 0.5, and 3/4 equals 0.75, you know, so you can read the chart that way if they give you those. So 7.25% is the same as 7 1/4% right there. So we've highlighted that row. And now we want to take a look and highlight the column that matters. And so if we go back over to here, they tell us 15 years. So I got to go back to the top, make sure I get the right column. Okay, here's my 15-year column. And I'm just going to take my highlight all the way down. And obviously, I'm not going to really do all that highlighting during the test, but I want to just vividly show you all. There you can see the number we're looking for is 9.12, which is, of course, $9.12. Just put a dollar sign in front of it. So there's your answer to this question. What's the loan factor? It's $9. Oh, sorry, I can't write with a highlighter. $9.12. Simple. Number 2, using the loan factor amortization factor chart, what would be the monthly PI payment for a loan in the amount of $1,000 issued for 30 years at a 4% annual interest rate? So now they gave us the loan amount, which is $1,000. Here's the good news. We already know that all those loans in that chart are at $1,000. So we don't need to do anything with that. 30 years, okay, that's going to be important for us. And then 4% annual interest. So we got 30-year loan at 4% annual interest. So let me go back over to the chart, and I'm going to go ahead and erase all my highlights from the last go round, so we can start fresh here. Now, I remember they said 30 years, so let's go ahead and we'll highlight that column all the way down. Okay. Go back and look, make sure I get the right rate. 4% annual interest. So I'm going to change colors here, and then want 4% annual interest and 30 years. Well, there you can see where the two cross each other. The number we're looking for is 4.78 here, and that's dollars, $4.78 per $1,000 borrowed. And coincidentally, they're asking us for exactly $1,000 borrowed right there. Okay. Exactly $1,000 borrowed. So let's make sure we get the right number, $4.78. That's going to be our answer on this question. 478. Just looking it up, just checking the chart. That's all we're doing so far. Number 3 says, what would be the monthly PI payment for the loan in question number 2 if it was in the amount of $2,000, excuse me. Glance down at question number 4. If it was in the amount of $2,000. So they want us to look back at question number 2. So we know we're starting with $478 a month, but that's per $1,000. Well, if the loan is in the amount of $2,000, here's all you have to recognize, folks. Anything that's after the comma just becomes after the decimal here. So take the comma in the 2,000 and change it to a decimal. 478 times 2.000. So just change that comma, the thousands place, to a decimal, and we're just going to be multiplying 478 times 2 because we're not borrowing $1,000 anymore. The payment would be 478 if we were borrowing $1,000, but if we're borrowing $2,000, we need to multiply that times 2. So 4.78 times 2 equals $9.56. So there's your answer on that one. Number 4 says, well, what would the monthly PI payment be for the loan in question number 2 if it was in the amount of $5,000? Well, again, we go right back. In question number 2, we already said that the monthly payment is $478. So we know that's our starting point. And the reason that's our starting point is because we're still talking about that same loan for 30 years at 4% annual interest. The only thing that changed, so the number that comes from the chart hasn't changed because it's still the same loan, same term, same interest rate. What's changed is the amount borrowed. So in this case, we're borrowing $5,000. What we want to do, take that last comma in the thousands place and turn it into a decimal. So this becomes 478 times 5.000, or just times 5. Type that into my calculator. And I've got a monthly payment, if we borrowed $5,000 on that loan, of $23.90. So let's just recap where we are. If we borrowed $5,000 for 30 years at 4% annual interest, our payment would be $23.90 for that monthly payment of $23.90 to pay back that loan over the course of that 30 years. And you can always calculate any loan payment by using this chart, as long as you know the length of time, and as long as you know the interest rate, and as long as you know how much money has been borrowed. If you know those 3 things, you can come up with the monthly payment here. So look at number 5. This is, what would the monthly payment be for the loan in question number 2? We keep going back to that same loan. If the loan was in the amount of $25,000. Well, we're going to simply go back to that same 478 as our loan factor, because it's still the same loan, same term, same interest rate. And remember, that came from our chart over here. Okay. Times, well, this time we need to look at how much we're borrowing, and we're borrowing $25,000. So at that thousands place, we're just going to change that to a decimal. This is going to be times 25.000. Notice I just took the comma out, changed it to a decimal. So $4.78 times 25.000. That is a monthly payment of $119.50. And that's if we borrowed $25,000. Obviously, the more you borrow, the more your payment's going to be. It makes sense. And so for every additional $1,000 we borrow, the monthly payment's going to go up by another $4.78. Hopefully, you're starting to see that by now. So look at number 6. Number 6 says, give myself some room to work here. Using the amortization factor, loan factor chart, what would be the monthly PI payment for a 20-year mortgage at 5.5% annual interest if we borrowed $227,000? So we got a 20-year loan at 5.5% annual interest. All right, well, let's go back over to my chart. Let me get everything cleared out here so I can kind of start fresh with my chart. Okay. All right, let's go back and remind ourselves what we're looking for. 5.5% for 20 years. 5.5%, so that's 5.5 right here. I'm going to highlight that whole row. And they said for 20 years. So there's my 20-year column, and I'm just going to do my highlight thing all the way down here. And what I'm looking for is where they cross over with each other. So the number that matters for me here is $6.88 per month. That would be the monthly payment on that loan, on a 5.5% interest rate loan taken out over the course of 20 years. the borrower would pay back every month $6.88. So let's write that number down because that's a really important number, $6.88. But remember, that's per every $1,000 borrowed. They're borrowing way more than $1,000. So their payment is going to be way more than that because their payment is going to be $688 for every 1,000. So what we're essentially thinking of is how many times do we need to multiply this 688? What, you know, how many times are they paying this 688 on a monthly basis? Well, that's where we go back over here to our loan amount and we take a look at that loan amount and we say, okay, how many thousands were borrowed? We take that comma in the thousands place and turn it into a decimal. So this becomes 688 times 227.000. And now we're ready for our calculator, $6.88 times 227.000. That is a monthly payment on that loan of $1,561.76. $1,561.76. And remember, that's for borrowing $227,000 at 5.5% interest for 20 years. We know exactly what the monthly payment is based on the chart. All right. Take a look at number 7 here. Myself the ring here. All right. Number 7 says, Susan is under contract to purchase a home for $450,000. Now, this is wordy, so I'm just going to scan through until I find the question here. Susan's under contract to purchase a home for $450,000 and obtaining an 80% loan-to-value loan of $360,000 to assist in the purchase. The lender is offering her terms that include a 5% annual interest rate for 30 years. Based on this information and using the amortization factor, loan factor chart, what? There's my question word. What should Susan expect to pay monthly? What's her monthly payment? So that tells me right there, I got to go to the chart because anytime I need the monthly payment, that's what the chart's for. The chart is there to help us get the monthly payment. So let's look at what's going to be important about this loan. Okay. She's obtaining a loan for $360,000. Let's talk about this $450,000 purchase price right here. Folks, this number is garbage. It's a loan payment. You don't make loan payments based on how much you pay for the property. You make loan payments based on how much you borrow. Because the truth is, Susan is not borrowing all of that money. She's only borrowing $360,000. So her payment's going to be based on the $360,000. It says the lender is offering her terms that include a 5% annual interest rate. Okay, so that's going to be important, 5% annual interest rate. And then it says for 30 years. So that's going to be important. So now what I think we need to do, what we should do is go over to the chart and find 5% annual interest for 30 years. So let me erase, get cleared out here. Okay. And I believe it said 5% for 30 years. It did. Okay. So here's my 30 years right here. Go ahead and notice it doesn't matter which one you do first. You can highlight the term, the number of years first, or you can highlight the interest rate first. It doesn't matter because all you're looking for is where they cross anyway. And so we're looking for 5% here. There's my 5% row. And they cross right there at $5.37. So $5.37 is my loan factor here. Write that down, $5.37, but that's per $1,000 in loan amount, per $1,000 borrowed. And we borrowed a lot more than that. We borrowed $360,000. So we need to know what to multiply this by. Well, we're going to go to that thousands place where that comma is and change it to a decimal and multiply times 360.000. $5.37 times 360. And that equals a monthly payment of $1,933.20. $1,933.20 on that particular loan. All right, and then number 8 here. Long, wordy. Just read it, scan it, find the question. Sharita has decided to refinance her home and obtain an appraisal report estimating the market value of the property at $315,000. She's been approved for a 90% loan-to-value conventional note of $283,500 and will finance the property for 15 years at 6.75% interest. She will also have annual property taxes of $3,500 and annual homeowners insurance of $1,200. Based on this information and utilizing the amortization factor, loan factor chart, what will Sharita's budget payment be, which is PITI? So let's talk about what PITI means. P equals principal. I equals interest. Now, those two things come to us from the chart. And then you get the TI, taxes and insurance. So what we're asking here, because in all the previous questions, we were only dealing with the principal and interest. That's what the chart gives us the principal and interest payment. But now they basically want us to add in how much it's really going to cost her to pay for this house on a monthly basis, sort of all in, full budget. What's her full housing budget going to have to be, including her taxes and insurance? It's the same question we've already been doing, folks. We're just going to have to add up at the end how much is the loan payment plus how much is going toward monthly taxes and insurance. So let's work on the loan payment first. Let's work on the payment amount first. So when we're working on the payment amount, let's look at what matters here. The note is $283,500. That number matters. The $315 up here, we don't care about. This is a loan payment. We don't care how much she's paying for the property. We care how much she's borrowing, okay? Other things that are going to be important for coming up with that payment, we need to know how many years, and they tell us it's 15. And then we need to know the interest rate. And they tell us that's 6.75%. So let's go ahead and look at 15 years, 6.75%. Let me clear this out. Okay. So here we go. 15 years. There's my 15-year column. And then it says 6.75%. Now, remember, 0.75 equals 3/4. So that's going to be 6 3/4. So I want to take my line right across right there. And they intersect at 8.85. So my loan factor or amortization factor on this one is $8.85. So that number is important. Let me write it down. Oops. Switch to a pen. $8.85 per 1,000. Okay. Now we need to know how many thousands are borrowed. So again, same thing here. Go to the thousands place, look at that comma, and change it to a decimal. So basically what you're doing is making sure there's always going to be 3 numbers after the decimal. Take that loan amount, which is not going to have a decimal in it, and put 3 numbers behind the decimal. And so this is going to be 885 times 283.500. Okay, $8.85 times 283.500. That's a total principal and interest payment of $2,508.97 or 98. It's 975 if you don't round it. Okay, and that covers just these 2 things right here, the principal and the interest. We still need to take into account, the taxes and the insurance. So let's talk about taxes real quickly. We change colors here, and let's talk about taxes right here. Here's what they tell us about the property taxes. They tell us that the property taxes are annually $3,500, annual property taxes of $3,500. So here's what we can do. We can say 3,500 divided by 12 to get that down to a monthly amount. Okay. So 3,500 divided by 12, that is 291.6666 or 7 a month for taxes. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add that in, plus 291.6666 or 7. Okay. We got one more piece we still haven't figured out though. Change colors one more time here. Let's talk about the insurance. It says annual homeowners insurance of $1,200. So we're going to do the same thing with the homeowners insurance. We're going to take that 1,200, divide it by 12 to get it down to a monthly expense. That equals $100 a month. So we're going to add that $100 a month. And then we're ready to calculate our total payment. So if we add 2,508.975 or 98, whatever you got there, plus 291.6667 plus $100, it looks like to me 2,000. We'll change colors just so you can clearly see it's a total. We'll go to green here. Looks to me a total of $2,900 and about 64 cents, 0.6416 monthly. And that's the full budget payment, because that includes the principal and interest part, which comes from the chart, plus the 1/12 of the taxes and 1/12 of the insurance. We're breaking those annual taxes and annual insurance down into monthly amounts so that they can be added into the monthly payment on the loan. And that takes care of that worksheet, folks. Just as simple as that. So hopefully this real quick video makes you a lot more comfortable with the loan factors and or amortization chart. That same thing. If you're not, go back and watch it again. I really can assure you, once this clicks in, this will be like, oh my God, that's easy. I can look that up in the chart and I can turn that into a payment. So keep at it and make sure you go back through it if you need to. Thanks.